Hey guys, Taylor here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about skills in the Division 2. Now skills in the Division 2 are more evolved than they have ever been. We have both new and returning skills to customize your agent with, but before we do get straight into this video, I just want to remind you we are running a giveaway this month, and that is for a limited edition Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Switch. To enter that, make sure you do follow the link down in the description. Now like I said, we're going to be looking at skills in the Division 2 today. Now although I am covering all the skills that we know of, there might not be gameplay for every single variant. Some variants we weren't able to get our hands on, and some variants we just didn't capture the footage for. But anyway, let's get straight into it. Now we're going to start by looking at a skill you should already know a fair bit about, especially if you've played the Division 1, and that is the Pulse. Now although this is a returning skill, it's also going to be acting very different. The Pulse does not have any damage boost, so for example it's not going to come with crit hit chance or a crit hit damage boost. That stands for any Pulse variant. You're not going to get that damage boost that you used to in the Division 1. So the first variant is pretty much the basic Pulse, but this one's called the Scanner. This one scans for nearby enemies and highlights them up on your HUD. The remote variant is also very similar. This time it's a handheld variant. You can throw this on the ground and it will pulse a certain area every couple of seconds. But this one can be destroyed if a hostile NPC gets near it. And then the final variant of the Pulse is pretty self-explanatory. This one's called the Jammer. It acts almost like an EMP pulse, and once you've built it up, it'll send out an EMP wave that will destroy or disable other skill objects within the area. Now I know the Pulse was a definite go-to skill for a lot of players for the Division 1, so it's great to see it coming back in the Division 2. And I am pretty happy with the changes as well, especially no more damage boost, so it's going to add a bit more build diversity, or diversity to the skills you choose either way. But anyway, less of the Pulse, let's move on to another returning skill, and that is a turret. There's currently 4 variants of the turret, and they are the following. We have the Assault, the Incinerator or the Fire turret, the Sniper, and if you are running as the Demolitionist specialization, you'll have access to the 4th variant, and that is the Artillery turret. But let's start with the Assault turret. It's pretty much exactly the same to the Assault turret in the first game. It has a 360-degree radius, so it means it can pretty much fire in whichever direction the enemies are in, although you can select a target for it to focus. The Incinerator, or the Flame turret as it was called in the first, acts a little bit differently. When you have this turret variant in your hand, you can actually move, so make sure you're in a good place when you select that turret. As well as being in a good safe place, make sure the turret is facing the enemies, because unlike the Assault turret, it doesn't have that option to swivel 360 degrees to target its enemies. Now the next variant is the Sniper variant. Now unfortunately we don't have any footage of the Sniper turret, but we do have a rough idea of how it's going to act due to the dev blog that we had a few weeks back, and this was what was said on that dev blog. This long range semi-automatic turret targets the same enemy you are engaging. While there is a slight delay on target acquisition, the sniper can adjust its aim to match your own aim on that target. And now the last variant for the turret skill is the Artillery turret. Now like I've already mentioned, this variant is only accessible if you are running the Demolitionist specialization. This is probably my favorite variant out of all of the turret variants, and it does pretty much what you would expect. Now once you've placed the turret wherever you want, you'll then have to take aim on an area where you want the mortar shell to land. Press the skill button again, and then the turret will proceed to fire that mortar onto the area you marked. So again, we see that introduction of manually controlling your skills. So that was the turret and its variants. We're now going to move on to another new skill that's appearing in the Division series. Again, that being one that was revealed in the dev blog that I previously spoke about. And this is the Hive. The Hive has 4 variants: the Stinger, the Restorer, the Booster, and the Reviver. Unlike some of the previous skills we talked about, none of these variants are actually specialization specific, so as you play through the game, you will have access to all 4 Hive variants. So let's start with the Stinger. This variant you would have seen in multiple trailers. This variant fires little micro drones that will swarm hostile targets, inflicting damage, as well as focusing their weak spots, and actually destroying them very efficiently. Next up is the Restorer. Now this variant detects missing armor on friendly agents within a range, deploying micro drones towards the agent, and on impact, armor is slowly repaired. Now this isn't continuous like the support station in the Division 1. The micro drones are sent out every few seconds as long as you're within that radius. Although if you are that medic within your team, I would definitely recommend this if you are used to or if you are wanting to use something like the support station. Next up is the booster variant for the Hive, and this one actually acts as a combat efficiency boost. When a friendly agent receives a micro drone off of the booster Hive, it will boost the player's weapon handling, movement and other physical capabilities of that agent. We didn't actually manage to capture gameplay of this variant, but I have been informed that the so-called boost isn't so huge, so you won't be zipping around the place like Sonic firing lasers. And now the last variant for the Hive is called the Reviver. Now I don't need to spend too much time on this, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can throw this down and if a downed agent is in the area of effect, they'll be revived. However, you can press the skill button to charge up the reviving micro drones. The longer you charge them, the more health / armor the agent will be revived with. Now we're going to talk about another returning skill, and one that we probably all know too much about, especially if we've played the first game. This is the Seeker Mine. This has 4 variants, 2 I'm pretty much going to skip over because they haven't really changed from the first game, and that being the Explosive Seeker Mine, that once deployed rolls to a nearby target and explodes at the target's feet. The next, of course, is a cluster, and again, we know what this one does. Pretty much like the explosive, but once deployed, the mine will split up into smaller mines that will hunt down separate targets exploding at their feet, dealing damage, but just not as much as the Explosive Seeker Mine. The third variant is the Airburst, and now this one is actually pretty cool. Once activated, it will drop to your feet. You then need to aim at the area you want it to impact and hit the skill button again. It will roll off to that area of choice and launch an explosive burst into the air at head height of the enemy. As a result of that explosion, the ground below the area of impact will also be covered in fire. So a pretty destructive variant of the Seeker Mine, if I do say so myself. Now finally, the fourth variant. This one is called the Mender variant. This is a survivalist specialization variant, so again, to gain access to this, you'll need to be running the survivalist specialization. Once deployed, this will roll to a friendly agent of your choice and release a cloud of chemicals that will gradually repair that friendly's armor. If you haven't selected a specific target, it will pick a friendly target that has the least amount of armor. It can also roll beside you and heal yourself. Now we're going to talk about the drone, the one skill I used most whilst on my trip at Redstorm. This skill has 5 variants: the Striker, the Defender, the Bombardier, the Fixer, and finally the Tactician drone. This one is, however, specific to the Sharpshooter specialization. So let's start with the Striker drone. It's a straightforward variant. Once sent out and you've picked a target, it will start firing bullets and depleting the target's health. It was definitely one of the go-to skills on our trip, and it did seem a little bit on the powerful side, so I won't be surprised if we see a few tweaks down the line. If you don't set a target for the Striker drone to focus, it will just go for the closest enemy. Next up is the Defender, and again, a really cool variant. This variant pretty much protects you from incoming fire for a small period of time with this tiny little micro drone shield things. Honestly, it's super cool, but if you feel like you don't need the protection, you can order it to protect your group. Now unfortunately, the next 2 variants weren't available to us, that being the Bombardier or the Fixer, but we do know a little bit about the both of them due to that dev blog. So referring to the dev blog, the Bombardier acts as follows. This drone can perform a bombing run across a long area. The drone flies to an area designated by the player and drops a barrage of explosives as it strays from one end of the zone to the other. Again, referring to the dev blog for the Fixer variant, this defensive drone repairs armor over time. You can choose whether you want it to fly next to you and passively repair your own armor, or choose a friendly target whose armor needs repairing, including other damaged skills. And then, last but not least, the Tactician drone. This is kind of like a pulse, but it just flies to a high altitude and scans the area, marking enemies within a certain difference. And remember, that Tactician variant is specific to this Sharpshooter specialization. Now a skill that all of the defense fans of the Division 1 will enjoy, that being the Shield. This, I believe, has 2 variants, but there might be more. Now, I didn't actually use this skill that much, but luckily enough, Arekkz did. So we're going to start with the Bulwark variant. This shield lets you use a primary weapon whilst having the shield equipped, but do take note, it's a smaller shield, so you will be exposing your agent's head and legs to enemy fire. And as well as that, it's not the toughest shield, so it's not going to be around for long. But if we're comparing that to the Crusader, the next variant for the shield, it's more like the original shield we had in the Division. However, you can only equip a sidearm with it. It's bigger and bulkier, so you'll be protected a whole lot better. Now the second to last skill, the Chem Launcher. Now again, unfortunately this wasn't available in the build we played, but we have seen a lot regarding it. It was actually in a lot of the E3 gameplay, as well as it was detailed in the dev blog I've spoken about a few times already in this video. It has 4 variants: the Fire Starter, the Riot Foam, the Oxidizer, and the Reinforcer. So let's start with the Fire Starter variant. This is a variant that will shoot out a gas canister containing a flammable gas, and this can be ignited by shooting in the gas or enemies shooting from it, and it also ignites if you or the enemy is on fire, runs into it. It's pretty cool, but be careful, it's very lethal. The Riot Foam, now although I didn't get my hands on this, I was trapped by it, and I had my fears that this would be really strong. But if I'm honest, it wasn't too bad. If you're caught up in Riot Foam, you can break free from it by holding a button if you're on the controller, or by pressing a key if you're on PC. Another way to escape the Riot Foam is if your group shoots at the foam you're stuck in, it'll break away, and thus you'll be free. I haven't seen any gameplay from the last 2 variants, but the Oxidizer variant fires a canister that emits a cloud of corrosive chemicals that over time eats away at hostiles' armor or mechanical items. And then finally the Reinforcer. This again I can only imagine being similar to some of the other healing skills we've talked about in this video. And this will disperse a cloud of powder that will stick to the ground and grants armor restoration over time. And you can actually heal you or your team with this skill very effectively. Now the very last skill we're going to talk about today is the Firefly. Now unfortunately this wasn't available in the build we played, nor do we know too much about it. So that leaves me with one question: what would you like the Firefly skill to be, and what variants would you like to see? I'd honestly love to read your suggestions. So there you have it, all of the skills in the Division 2 and their respective variants. If you did enjoy this video, please let us know by leaving a comment or by leaving us a like. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We've still got a lot more Division 2 content coming your way, so make sure you stay tuned to the Arekkz Gaming channel.
Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch 269 and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the Endgame store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the Endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here. But once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.